Hey everybody, welcome back to Drinks and a Movie. Chris Hampker here with you. Today we'll be talking about Solo, a Star Wars story. But first, let's start with the drink. And the drink I'm going to be making is a drink called the Han Solo. And I think it's called that because it's kind of bitter because it's got some coffee in there. It's got some creams. It's a little sweet, and he's white. And then some vodka. So let's make this Han Solo drink, and it's fairly easy. Into a rocks glass with ice, we're going to pour 2.5 parts vodka, 1 to 1/2, 1.5 part Kahlua, 1/2, and then over the top 3 parts Bailey's Irish Cream. 1, 2, 3. All right. And we have our Han Solo. A little dark underneath, but a whole lot of white on top. Cheers, everybody. Here's the Han Solo drink and Solo, a Star Wars story. All right, so Solo is directed by Ron Howard and stars Alden Ehrenreich as the most famous intergalactic hero in probably film history, Han Solo. And the story of Solo, a solo Star Wars story, Solo. The story is essentially, what if Han Solo, except, well, younger? Now, even me being a gigantic Star Wars fan, I never really asked for or wanted or needed a origin to Han Solo or whatever he was like when he was young. I just didn't need it. I had all the information I needed from the 4 movies he's been in so far. So, and now his 5th one. And I think Hollywood has been doing this a little too much recently. I mean, how do you take one of the most frightening and just vicious creatures, the alien from the Aliens movies, and sort of gut it and not make it as scary? Well, you just make him come from an overzealous android that looks a lot like Michael Fassbender, who enjoys doing the fingering while floating himself. Yep. Just let your mind wrap around that one. But my point is that if you take away the mystery of something, if you take away its kind of, you just don't need to answer all the questions, I guess is my point. And it just takes away the specialness of the character, like they're doing here with Han Solo, especially in such a ham-handed way that they did in this movie. Okay, so I'm not going to get ahead of myself. I mean, you guys are kind of getting the idea that I didn't like the movie to begin with, which is true, but I did like some things. So let's get into some things I did like, which isn't much, but I did like them. The second act of this movie is actually pretty great and entertaining. Once things get going, it's pretty fun. It's kind of from where Han Solo joins Woody Harrelson's Beckett's team to do this, this heist / run. Once that starts, I think the movie does kick into high gear and is pretty fun, and then it drops way off in the third act. But we'll get to that. The other things I liked were the cast. I think Alden Ehrenreich, I thought he was fine. I thought he made the good decision of not trying to do a Harrison Ford impression, because that would just be it would just be dumb. And I think he did his best of making the character his own without doing the impression, which is hard enough doing such an iconic character like this, because this character is so steeped in Harrison Ford. I mean, they're almost synonymous. I mean, just like Indiana Jones. I mean, he really puts a stamp on the character, but Ehrenreich didn't go that route, and that was smart. The other person I did like was Donald Glover as Lando. He actually did kind of do a Billy D. Williams impression, which made sense because Billy D. Williams is such a strange actor. He's kind of like Chris Walken that way. He has this kind of strange cadence to his voice, and if you do a little bit of that, it goes a long way, and Donald Glover did that, and I thought it was great. And the third thing I loved was Chewbacca. In this, you get to see Chewie do things that you normally didn't get to see in like the original trilogy or even in Force Awakens, because he was played by Peter Mayhew, who didn't have that mobility. But in this, Chewbacca was doing a lot of stuff. He was very athletic. He was very up front as a character, and they did the play off of each other. He and Han did their banter really well. I thought that was the one thing they really got right in this, was that relationship, which is very important. So that's why I'm not like shitting completely on this movie, because that is a very important relationship that they, I think, got really right. All right, so the last thing I wanted to mention in terms of positives was the action was good, and the look of the movie is really good. There's this yacht that the bad guy Paul Bettany's character goes around on, and it's got a really interesting design. It's like a vertical design, and it's really actually kind of cool looking. The action, especially in the second act, like I mentioned, was really good. And it centered around the Millennium Falcon, and that was just amazing. It was a lot of fun to watch, and it was a really good set piece. And the world they sort of attempted to build with this young Han Solo character looked pretty good. I mean, the budget is incredible on these movies. I mean, it's they always look great, and the effects are always really top notch. And that's it sounds like I'm saying it as a negative. It's not. They did a really good job with it, and it looked lived in and dirty, and that I appreciate. All right, so now let's get into some negatives. This movie is just one of the most uninspired movies I've ever seen. I mean, there's nothing special about this movie. I honestly don't know why it was made. Ron Howard directed this movie, and he's a great director. He's made some incredible movies. And he's made look, it's a very competent and very average movie, and there's nothing like offensive about it, but there's nothing original. There's nothing there to sink your teeth into. There's just nothing inspired here, and that's one of the problems. If you're going to take a character that is so iconic like Han Solo, you have to have a reason for doing it, which means you have to have a story that says something or takes the character in a direction that either you didn't know you wanted to know, or was just something special. And this movie didn't do any of it. The Emilia Clarke's character is completely wasted. She's supposed to be there as kind of this femme fatale, former fling of Han's, and just I mean, it's not her fault, but it just doesn't go anywhere. Woody Harrelson looked bored half the time, and he usually is great, but then there's just nothing. There's again nothing behind him, nothing interesting, and then they try to do these scenes where they, explain little things about the Han Solo character that nobody really cared to know, like where he got the iconic blaster, and you see it in the trailer, so I'm not giving anything away. I'm not spoiling anything, but this scene is just played so poorly that they're just so uninterested. They're sitting around a fire, and he essentially disassembles a larger gun into this blaster that he ends up giving him, and he tosses it to him just so without fanfare or anything interesting, and it was almost as if I expected Woody Harrelson to look right at the camera, hold the blaster up, throw it at him, like there it is. We did it. You have it, fanboys. You know where he got his blaster, and it's so sad that they did it this way, that it just didn't seem to care. They were just like, well, we need to put out another Star Wars movie this year. Let's do the young Han Solo, because people know that character. People go, I know that one. I have heard of him. All right, lastly, which is something that I was actually really surprised about, this movie has seriously no third act. And what I mean by that, the last bit is there's this really cliched reveal that's terrible, and then there's this fight between Han, Emilia Clarke, and the bad guy Paul Bettany's character, and they have this strange fight, and it kind of reminded me of Willow, a movie I loved, another Ron Howard movie, where there's this fight in the tower between the witches and everything. It's really cool, but it's also intercut with like this big battle sequence going down on the ground. And it's exciting that way, because they don't just focus on one thing, but this movie just had the one thing, and that's it, nothing else. And this movie's just so lazy and derivative and just not interesting. And it just brings me back to the idea of if you're gonna like take the mystery out of a character, such an iconic character as Han Solo, it ends up, you know, running into the problem of possibly turning that character into a bland sort of bore, and that's terrible. It's a terrible idea, and you should. They just should have thought about it before making this. I just don't know why they made it. Anyway, I can't recommend this movie. I don't think you should go see it. I think just it's totally skippable and forgettable. And I mean, it's not offensive. I didn't hate it. It's just there's no point to it. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining me. Cheers. Have a drink on me. If you like this, please like, share, subscribe down here at the bottom. And I'll see you later. Bye-bye.